Look at that. Episode 303 of A to the Show. We've been doing this 303 times. Yeah, what? That was amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I love the number 3, so that's cool.
Perfect. Traveling around the world. Now we're back in Beirut with Aziza Sbaity. Welcome on the show. Tell us who you are and what you do.
Well, thank you for having me, first of all. I'm Aziza Sbaity, and I am a Lebanese runner, sprinter. I hold the national records for a couple of sprinting events, and my aim and goal is hopefully to represent Lebanon at the Olympics. But other than that, I'm just enjoying the journey as we move along.
Hey, good luck. That sounds amazing. I want to hear some of
very ambitious dream.
Yeah, it is.
Awesome.
It is.
All right. So I want to hear about some of your stories. Where are the places you've traveled racing?
Well, I've been to a lot of different places, but it just seems like right now, while you're asking me, China seems to be the most visited country on my list. It always seems to like host the Asian championships and stuff like that. So I've been to China a whole lot, maybe 6 times, and different parts of China. And Canada, Berlin, we were just talking about that, and a lot of places around Europe. Even we had some competitions in the US. So track seems to be taking me all over the place. A lot of Arab countries as well, of course.
Is track standardized throughout the different countries, or is it different running in each country? Yeah,
it is standardized. So you have
nice.
the same events all over, and then you just you compete in the event that you're good at. So basically I compete in the 60 and 200 meters indoors, and then when it's outdoors, it's the 100 and 200.
Oh wow, nice. And that's what you're trying to go for the Olympics, those 2 categories?
Well, and so basically
you'd want to go. Which one?
Well, if the Olympics is still gonna happen, because that's always it has a question mark, with the whole COVID situation and stuff like that. It was postponed to this year. It was actually supposed to happen last year, but basically the deadline for who's going to represent Lebanon, and that's going to be one person. So it's either going to be one guy or one girl for the whole track and field event. So track and field has, I'm not going to say a wrong number, I'm a track and field athlete, but it has like over 10 events, and just one person is going to represent. And the deadline for making that choice, which is like the Lebanese Federation, Athletics Federation, is going to choose by the 29th of June. So I have from now, 29th of June, to take the opportunity to compete in a lot of events that are actually going to help me faster, because the faster I run, the more chances I have of having a better time and hopefully secure that spot.
All right, good luck. Sounds like a plan. All right, well, it'll be fun to watch this a year from now and find out what happened. Sounds good.
Question
are we back online?
Yes.
Yeah, we're still.
I feel like I disappeared.
I want to ask, so you said they're going to pick either one, like just one person to represent Lebanon, and both including both male and female.
It's either like one male or one female. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Don't they usually take one of each? Like I'm not too sure. Like I don't know how it works.
Yeah, they used to. So basically, every event. I'm not gonna say every event. So I'm just gonna concentrate on track. So usually they used to take one guy and one girl, but just like a few years ago, which was like 2 years ago, maybe they kind of changed that rule, and they decided that only one person from countries that do not automatically qualify. So there's a certain standard that athletes are supposed to get to in order to automatically qualify. And in some countries, including Lebanon, unfortunately, we don't really make the cut for automatic qualifications because of so many factors like training and facilities and equipment and all of that stuff that professional athletes do have. So these countries, basically, they just said, okay, so it's just one person that's going to represent. And I don't know if that's because of budget cuts or what their actual reasoning is, but that was the final decision.
All right. Yeah, sounds good.
Do you think that's a fair decision?
Do you think that's a fair decision?
Personally, of course, I do not think that's a fair decision. I mean, like, it's easy to compare between a guy and a girl, so it's not really unfair because there's a certain table of points, because of course there are guys who are much faster than me in Lebanon. It's not like I'm winning the guys, so it's not like they're comparing who's going to win. But every person that runs a certain race get certain number of points based on a point system that the International Federation has. So that's why it's easy to compare while being fair. But from a standing point of, like, is it fair to only take one from like either a male or a female? I don't think it's nice, because, like, I know we're always talking about equity and equality, and maybe their rule is kind of like making it seem like, okay, it's fair, so whoever's the best is going to go. But still, it's like there's no gender equality in this. So why not just like take, you know, the two best male and female athletes, you know? So it was really hard for me and my teammate, like the who's the best runner in Lebanon, and we're teammates. It was really hard for us to, like, you know, take it in and go like, okay, well, it's either me or you, or whoever else is also part of this, you know, journey, who really wants to make it as well. Yeah.
Yes, because like you mentioned the concept of equality and equity and things. Like, what are you more for, like equality or equality of opportunity, or like there's always these different arguments, is like where, okay, so both genders would probably get, like, you know, the equal opportunities, but it's not necessarily equality.
Well, the thing is, I feel like that's a very broad topic to talk about, especially when we're in a country like Lebanon. So, for example, there are other athletes who are abroad who have better opportunities and who are Lebanese, let's say American, like you live abroad. Maybe you had a better opportunity to be at a better school if you lived in Los Angeles all your life, or, you know, better education, better chances of being in a better club, better coaches, better facilities, all of that. So it's not just an idea of, you know, equality or equity. We just unfortunately don't live in a country that really supports the idea of sports in general, you know. So I actually am a full-time athlete. So I have like a little part-time freelance job, but I actually took a decision a few years ago and I left everything to do this. You know?
That sounds so difficult in a country that doesn't really support sports.
But I already knew that was the case. I already knew that was the case, and still I chose to do this. And it's because it's my passion, and I feel like when you find a purpose, like I feel like this is just kind of like one of my purposes in life, at least during this time of my journey, you know. So I'm like, if I don't want to ever go through this time in life where I'm thinking, I wish I had given this more time, or I wish I put my all into this, you know, like whenever you hear older people talking about, I could have done this and I could have done that. So I'm like, why don't I just like put it all out there on the line and see my true potential, what I could really do, whether I make it to the Olympics or not. I just want to see how far I can get, you know, in with this, and just bring out the best I could possibly get out of myself. Amazing. It wouldn't have been possible had I not had a really supportive family, that's first of all, and really supportive team and coaches, and, you know, people around me who are like really supporting me in this journey.
We've had, that's amazing to hear, Aziza. Despite all the adversity, you still power through and go for your goal. We've had a lot of people come from countries that they don't have the greatest facilities for their athletes, pretty much. A lot of them complain, or they're not like motivated, or they feel like life is not fair, and it is not fair, I guess, towards them. I guess it's not fair towards you either, in some ways. So how do you go past that?
I feel like life kind of teaches you to think about the positives in it, you know. So I do not want to lead a life where I'm just complaining about why don't I have better opportunities, and why is life so unfair. Like I feel like once you kind of take a deep breath and go like, okay, so I know life is unfair, like that's the given, and I'm not going to be complaining about this. I'm going to see how I'm gonna make use of what I have, how I can, just use the facilities I have to bring out the best in me, instead of thinking like, oh, why am I not like the people in the Europe or in the US or stuff like that, So that's just one thing. And I think with this mentality, I just seem to be making it through, and not in a negative way. I really am enjoying this journey, and I could have had an opportunity to be in the US. That's where my mom lives. I go there like all the time and stuff like that. But I just have this connection, a deep-rooted connection with Lebanon. And people sometimes make fun of this thing, like, why are you even in Lebanon? Like, go. I'm like, I just love this country so much, and I want to try and give my all. And when I do this, it's not just for myself. I'm really putting in this work for Lebanon as well. So yeah. It sounds cliche and weird and all, feely, but I just feel like that's really how I've been for the past couple of years, more so than ever. I just have such love for this country, with everything horrible going on, like I was trying to get gas in my car, and I think you've heard about all the cars on the road trying to get gas and stuff like that. This country is crazy, but I just feel like I've put myself in this bubble where I know what I want, and there's nothing that's gonna stand in my way as long as I'm focused on that.
Is it that your environment within Beirut is your own bubble is helping you get through? So
yeah, for sure.
So that's your advice to people who are in these communities, to have their own little friendship groups and their own bubble to thrive in?
Yeah, I mean, I was lucky enough to just be in the right place at the right time for a lot of years during my life. Like I was just when I first moved to Lebanon, I was just I see it so happened that I was enrolled in a school that actually cared about sports. And we had some tryouts, and they noticed my talent, if I may say. And it just went on from there. So it just happened that I'm always around people who are pushing me forward and supporting me. Maybe that's a stroke of luck, but I also feel like I worked hard for this as well. So as long as you know what you want, and you can go out and get it, even if you don't want to stay in Lebanon. I mean, like some people have really amazing talents, and there's no way they can grow here, maybe, you know what I mean? Because no one's going to support them or whatever. But I feel like once you know what you want, you could just go out there and thrive, because the universe is listening. I always say, you can speak things into existence, and I try to do that all the time. So
make this number one podcast. Make this number one podcast.
Yes, just keep saying it. Just keep saying it, Ali.
So one thing that you said that is like you have this deep-rooted connection to Lebanon, and what I want to know is, what do you attribute it to? It's like, why do you have this deep connection to Lebanon, even with all of the basically the shit that's going on, the adversity that's going on, and it's like, and the restrictions they place on you as an athlete?
I think it just goes back to what I was just saying about having your own support system and the people around you, you know what I mean? And I think I have this moment, I've spoken about this before on a couple of other podcasts, but it's just such a real story. A certain point in my life where that track and field is what I wanted to do, and it like coincided with that moment where I knew I was running track and field and representing Lebanon at the same time, and it was such a beautiful feeling. And it was during the Jeux de la Francophonie, which was hosted in Lebanon in 2009. And as I was like going into the opening ceremony venue, like the whole Lebanese team and all the other countries were just walking in. There are certain moments in life where you have to listen to the little whispers, and that was not just a whisper, it was like a huge sound. Like it was like fireworks all over the place in my heart and everywhere. And it felt so beautiful to actually be able to do something I love and be able to represent my country at the same time. So
that's awesome.
And it gave me so many opportunities to actually, hold the Lebanese flag and go all over the world, as I said, and just show a different side of Lebanon. Like Lebanon is not all the struggles and all of that. Yes, we do have struggles. Yes, we do have a lot of adversity and stuff going on, but we try to be the best and bring out the best in this country. So why not actually, keep that fire alive and not just give up on this country?
And what I want to know, Aziza, is how fast are you?
Well, so basically on the 100 meters, I run around 11:73 seconds. So that's a Lebanese record. And if you want to turn that to kilometers per hour, I think it translates to like around 30 something kilometers per hour, which is like, it's okay.
Oh yeah, that's faster than me.
Running on the highway.
Usually I don't run that fast. So that's how I would say.
I'm really bad at calculations, but I assume it should be something like that.
All right.
Yeah.
And how do you get that fast?
No, it took a whole lot of training. I mean, I've been into sports ever since I was young. Like I used to play basketball and volleyball and handball at school, and tennis, a lot of tennis in Liberia as well. But then I started training I'm gonna say professionally, like during my last year of school. That's when I moved to Jamhour Club in Louisa and Bata. And once I started getting proper training, my times just started dropping. And I can't wait to see what this year has in store, because I feel like this is the strongest I've ever felt, even though I'm already 29 years old, guys. Like I'm getting there, but I feel like as I have gotten more mature and more centered on what I want in life, and like knowing exactly what it is that I'm working for, things have just been falling into place. I mean, the process is kind of slow because there's a whole lot of work involved, and you get injuries and setbacks, and the whole COVID situation, like last year, almost did not exist. And while we were in the middle of competition season, because Lebanon kind of opened up around July, I got COVID, and I was like one of the first people on the whole track, like in the whole track community, not just on my track team, who got COVID, and people started freaking out and races closed down completely in the country thanks to me. And so last year felt like it just didn't happen, even though I felt
hope you are
good.
Okay. I hope you were okay.
Oh yeah. I was okay.
And has that affected your stamina? Like getting COVID?
No, not at all. Thank God. Thankfully, it did not affect my stamina or anything respiratory wise and stuff like that. So it was fine. It wasn't too bad. I mean, I had a really lots of rough days, and it felt really weird because, like I'm an athlete, but I had some at least 5 days where I could not get off of the couch. I couldn't lift my head. I'm like, what is going on? What is this feeling? Like if I tried to lift my head up, I would get dizzy and it wasn't nice. It was not nice. But yeah,
and there's people like me who are not athletes, and I was asymptomatic.
I know, right? I don't get that. I still don't get that. I don't know how that's fair. They go exercise and train and you'll be stronger. And I'm like, I'm dying.
Life's not fair. Yeah.
Right. Back to that point.
So you said you're 29, and you're that you're so it's 29 basically like the prime year, or like around the prime years of your career as a runner?
It's for a sprinter, it's around the time where you start okay, so you got to the peak now, so maybe this is the peak, but women especially, maybe most of them start retiring at around 31, 32. So and it's not just that, so it depends on when you start. So I've been training ever since I was 17 years old. So that's a lot of training years, and your body really cannot take that much intensity because it's an intense thing. So it's not like long distance running where people could run at whatever age and keep running marathons and ultra marathons. Sprinting is just a lot of brutal force and power and strength. So you kind of lose that with age as well. So I feel like I am at the peak though.
All right. And you feel and you feel at the peak mentally, right? You feel like
Yes,
You have
yes.
learned a lot, and now you're doing the hardest. So, what's your training like right now? During your peak?
It's pretty intense.
Yeah.
Like, I moved to this club around 3 years ago, and my coach, he's tough. I mean, like, I I kind of crossed barriers mentally and physically that I thought I could never cross before. Like I used to hate running the 200. The 200 was my enemy. Like I'd stand at I remember this one time I was in Jordan and I had this race and I was at the start line and they go like on your mark, set, and then the guy shoots the gun, right? And so I'm standing on the starting block and I was like feeling so bad. Like I just wanted to throw up and I wanted to use the bathroom. It's always like right before the gun goes off where you feel like, oh my gosh, I need to use the bathroom right now. It's because of the nerves and the stress and stuff like that. And then I'm looking at the guy. I'm like, oh, I need to tell him that I need to use the bathroom. So all that stress and stuff like that. But that was a really good race. And I did really well in that race. But the thing is like now, because of all the trainings and because of, going past my limits and like, my threshold is just like higher now and stuff like that. I just feel like I'm always ready to run, even though you never lose the stress. Like it's not something that just goes away. It's positive stress, if I may say. Just it's the dopamine levels and the adrenaline and all of that just kicks in, and then you use it in a positive way in a race. So yes, mentally, physically, I am definitely mature. Yeah.
You're using that stress to fuel
nice
you.
And scary.
Yeah, it's like the best time of your life right now. It's like athletically speaking.
Adrenaline.
I hope so. I still haven't had an amazing race. I mean, it's the first year where I start the season off faster than I've ever started any other season. So that's where I know like, okay, things have definitely changed. But you need that one race where you're gonna have everything come together, whether it's how you start off the blocks and then how you push and how you drive and accelerate, and then people pushing you, even if they're running faster than you, just to get the best out of yourself as well. So I'm just waiting for those perfect conditions to come together, and I want to see how that's going to be looking like.
And since you also mentioned like female athletes, female sprinters, they retire around like 31, 32. Would you say this is the Olympics this year are maybe your last shot to represent Lebanon in the Olympics?
Well, for the Olympics wise, probably this is probably going to be my last shot, because the next Olympics is going to be happening in 2024. My coach wouldn't be happy if he heard me say that at all, because he thinks I still have some fuel left in the tank for that. But I just feel like maybe just one more year, which would be next year, and maybe that would be it, and I just move on to real life as they say. But so maybe just that.
And you also said like, okay, you want to move on. There's this thing where athletes don't know what they're going to do once they give it up, once they give up their sport, and they don't have a backup plan. Basically, they don't have, not a backup plan, but necessarily, but something to do after they retire.
They gave it their all. They gave it
their all.
My time in a sport. I don't have time to think about.
And then they probably also spend all of their money back when they're playing, and they just, and then once they're done, there's like, oh shit, what do I do now?
There are a lot of stories about that, and we actually had a whole seminar about that, like what do athletes do after they retire, and it was like by the World Athletic Federation, and also with the National Olympic Committee over here, and it just opens people's eyes to different stuff. But luckily, because we are in Lebanon, sports was not my full a source of concentration. I had so many other things going on. So I graduated from school, and then I graduated from LAU with a business management degree. I worked for 6 years in the business world, and I got a lot of experience working in Lebanese business world, but just like now, because of track and because of this passion I have for sports, I realized that if I want to continue working, I just want to leverage my passion into something related to sports. And that's why I put in an application for a sports management degree, and I got accepted to Boston for that. And also I got accepted to
yeah.
Yeah, and I also got accepted to German university for masters in Olympic movement or Olympic studies.
Nice.
And those are stuff that I'm passionate about, and I know that the rest of my career would be put towards working on a plan to make maybe Lebanon better when it comes to all types of sports. It might be hard, but I just feel like I'm just in the right place, surrounded by the right people who also share the same passion and who are also already working in this domain. So I'm not too worried about how the future is going to be looking like. I'm not too, I'm just kind of concerned about kind of putting this identity, which has been with me ever since I was a child, which is like Aziza, the sports person. I'm 29 years old, but I'm still in my running shorts and my backpack, like walking around like all the neighborhood. And I was like, there goes that girl again with the backpack, it's just who I am. And then it is going to be hard leaving that me behind and starting something else. But I feel like it's just going to be another exciting journey, hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully not too boring, but
awesome. No, exactly.
Yeah.
Like you said, like it's the athlete is huge and having awesome genetics and being a great athlete and training is great, but also it's the facilities and environment and stuff. That's another huge part. So if you grow and you can work on all these things and you can help the next future athlete really pop off in Lebanon, really make your dream come true.
That's definitely a goal. That's definitely a goal.
So for right now, you're training a lot. You definitely want to get faster. How do you avoid getting injured, pretty much? Because knock on wood, not get injured. So how do you do that?
Yeah, I've had my fair share of injuries. I mean, when I was like around 20 years old, I had this injury which went on with me for like 3 seasons. So for 3 seasons, I couldn't run the 100 or the 200. And it was really tough because it was at a time where I felt like I was peaking. And how I avoid injuries right now just has a lot to do with my training regimen and me taking preventive measures really seriously. So I have a whole session whether it's at the gym or with my physical therapist, that's just purely preventive, so we do a lot of whether it's massages or like ice baths or whatever other physical therapy stuff that we do, but also like exercises that strengthen weak muscles or muscles that we overwork, whether it's our hamstrings or ankles and stuff like that. So I really take that seriously, and that also comes with the growth, so it's not like, oh, I don't feel like doing this, whatever, let me just leave it. No, I better go do it because I'm getting older now. So it's not like I'm young and I can just bounce back. But I always say, like, I've been old ever since I was young. So I feel like I'm younger now than before when it comes to trying to avoid injuries and just, getting over them faster.
Yeah, we noticed with like other athletes that have been on the podcast that they have this sense of maturity because of the responsibility they have especially when they're representing their country and the discipline that they have with the training.
That's true.
Yeah. Something that I also want to go to is, now I don't know how to ask this question, but do you feel like maybe you're like to other Lebanese sprinters, do you think like genetically you have an advantage?
I maybe could have said that, but I feel like I kind of don't. Let me just tell you why. So remember how I told you it's all about comparing results, and we can easily compare between guys and girls and stuff like that. So right now, the guy who has the most number of points, who's my training partner, Noor Hadid, has way more points than I ever did till now. So 2 years ago, he ran his best times and his points were crazy. So time wise, like his timing was, ranked really high up between like world athletes. So if I had, the real black genes, if I may say, I should be doing much better than I am right now, But I mean, but I always tell my dad, hey, I think I got more of your genes. It's just the color that I have. But anyway,
you tell your dad that he slows you down.
I'm like him. It's all because of you. It's all because of you. But yeah, jokes aside, I feel like maybe I do have a little bit of an advantage, but it's not that much, you know. So people think like, oh, like sometimes it's funny when I go to competitions and it's in the Arab world and they see like I'm a Black person who's representing Lebanon. They always think that, they nationalized her or like naturalized her actually and gave her a passport or whatever. And then when we
Yeah,
run,
we see that in
and then
basketball, for example.
yeah, you see that in basketball, and even in track and field, like a lot of Bahraini athletes or Qatari athletes are naturalized people from Africa. So I'm like, my numbers do not represent my, you know, like my true genes and stuff like that. So I think that's just to answer your question. I should be doing better. I need to be doing better.
And going on this point about naturalizing other nationalities into, you know, the Arab countries to represent in the sports. What's your opinion on this? Because like, would you consider this maybe like this is cheating or is like unfair?
I mean, it's a very tough question, but I am definitely.
Oh, you shut down her camera.
Sorry.
They're shutting her down.
I know, right? Sorry, I got a call. That's why I didn't want to use my phone. Anyway, okay. Back to that. So yes. I feel like I'm definitely against that. I do not agree whatsoever because it's not fair. I mean, if I were running, let's say 5-6 years ago, maybe I could have been on the podium for the 100 and 200 way more than I am right now because I have like 2 or 3, whatever, naturalized athletes before me, and they do not even feel the connection with their countries, you know, right. with their adopted countries. So they just do it for the money because they get paid a whole lot of money to do what they do, unlike me, who does it kind of like for free just because I love it and I want to represent my country. So when it comes to that point, it's definitely not fair, and I am not with that at all whatsoever. But again, we have to deal with what we have, and I think other athletes are trying to complain or like kind of like when I say other athletes, like athletes in the Bahamas or, you know, other countries go like, why are you naturalizing? But again, you see countries like the US who have a lot of, you know, immigrants coming in and then they naturalize them. So they say, so why is this any different? But when you go down to the root of it, like it is so different. You're scouting someone and then bringing them to this country, paying them kind of like, I don't want to say this, but kind of like, you know, buying their talent and you kind of like using them for your country's benefit. And then once you're done, you go like, okay, Allah, bye, we've had enough of you, or you've given us all that you can. So yeah, it's not nice.
And do you think that maybe it's the country's duty to basically pay their locals to incentivize them to represent their country instead of naturalizing other people?
It's very complex because in Arab countries, it wasn't until 2012 in the 2012 Olympics that took place in London that every single country in the world had both genders representing. And when I say every country in the world, that means it was the first time that Saudi Arabia actually had a female on their team, you know. So some countries do not advocate having their own people actually being exposed, whether it's for on the TV or like live sporting events and stuff like that. They'd rather not have their own women put in those places, you know, for whatever, whether it's cultural or religious reasons. So I think that's also it plays a huge role when it comes to that. So yeah.
That's really awesome how you have your own like vision and your own independence. How did that come about? Was it when you were younger you've always had your independence, or is it now that, because you really have your own mindset, this is what I want to do, and you're doing it despite literally everything? Like the way you make it sound like, I just really want to run, and so I run. It is that simple, but it's also like for a lot of people there's a that prevents them from doing it. And I'm sure there was
yeah,
someone
yeah.
prevented you. So how do you ignore all the dumb people listening?
Okay. Well, first of all, I think like running gave me sort of strength when I was in school, because I was a shy person. I was really, really shy as a kid. And I came to a new country where I didn't really know a lot of people. And I was different. I was always like the different person, obviously. So kind of like finding myself in this gave me some type of like comfort and confidence in doing this. So, and also like I could not have ever been able, or I couldn't have dreamt of actually, getting here had it not been for my family and their support. So it's not just something that just happens without having that support. And I'm just lucky enough to be in a family that really supports me in my decisions. And I have been given the freedom to choose what I want to do ever since I was a child, of course, within limits. But it's like this thing where I grew up in different cultures and was exposed to a lot of different, diverse cultures, and I kind of like got the best from different places, and maybe some bad stuff too, I don't know. But I just feel like all of that kind of made it possible for me to have this mindset. And it's also the problems and the down times that made me feel like, why am I not doing something that's actually going to make me happy? Because I've been through a whole lot, I feel like, negative events during my life, and they just make you feel like life is not like, why are we making life so difficult?
Let's talk about him. Let's talk about him briefly. I want to start off with like COVID. You're a runner, right? And so when they told you to quarantine, you can't go outside and do stuff outside. How did that affect you?
It was really horrible. I mean, like I feel like that's like a little part of the horrible that, list of horribles that happened to me, because I had been given my whole time to this, and then all of a sudden it's just not there. Thankfully, Olympics was over back then. Like, it wasn't going to happen, so it's not like I lost something huge or whatever. So it like, sorry about that. So it was easy for me to get out of it and go like, okay, I just need to move on from that. But there were also a lot of situations where, because of the economic situation in the country, like my family had to go through a rough time, whether it was financially and like closing our business down and stuff like that. So, yeah, I mean, like I like a lot of people in Lebanon. So it wasn't an easy time, and it wasn't just last year or the year before. Like, I feel like everything that happened with my family, or to my family throughout the past few years kind of like prepared us for what's to come. And thankfully, we really did learn a lot. I say we because seriously, all of us together learned a lot from this situation, and thankfully we grew out of it, and things turned out way better than we could have imagined. But as I'm saying, like, negative things happen just for your growth. There's no way anyone could grow without going through a negative situation. And that's why sometimes I feel like I do not mind failing, because failures are just lessons, and going through a negative situation is another lesson. It's another chance to grow and just become better and understand life from a different perspective, because not everything is rosy. And as I'm saying, like, once you understand that life has its problems, it has its ups and downs, and it has a lot of negative situations, but you can get out of it and just become a better person and learn so much. So
learn from your experiences. We're almost out of time, by the way. Saeed, do you want to do you have any last questions?
No, I'm satisfied with my questions.
Satisfied. All right. All right, sounds good. What's next for you, Aziza?
Well, right now, as I'm saying, the deadline for the Olympics is going to be on the 29th. So from now till then, I'm just going to try competing in as many races as I can, and trying to see how far I can go. And whether I make it or not, I'm just like excited to see what the rest of this journey has to offer.
Let's go. All right, sounds good. I have
The
one
best
more.
of luck. Yeah.
Let's go. Best of luck.
Thank you,
One more
Sai.
thing. I have one more thing to ask.
Yeah.
It's a little personal question.
Mm-hmm.
When I during COVID, I couldn't move at all, pretty much, and so I was just very sedentary, and then I gained a bunch of weight, and then as of 2 months ago, we had this guy called John the Bulldog on our podcast, and he really motivated me to start lifting. So I've been running a lot and doing a lot of lifting. Yeah. So there we go. I want to know.
I'm trying to get swole.
I'm trying to get swole, pretty much. So what I want to ask Aziza is, has there ever been a time where you haven't had the chance to work out and then or run or anything? And how did you feel when you were at that time and compared to now, which is when you're at your most athletic? Does it change your mindset at all?
Yeah, I had a couple of times. So one of them was when I had COVID, and then another time was when I had to go to the US for a couple of months, and another time where I had to go to Liberia, which was not long ago. So in February, I was supposed to go to Liberia for 1 week, and I actually ended up staying there for a month, and training was not easily accessible. So I didn't have, proper gym equipment or a track and stuff like that. So it definitely affects the mindset in a negative situation, but that's just because I'm just used to having everything available, like the facilities and everything. But I think I try to do the best that I can with what I have. And even if my body did change, because it did change, I lost muscles and and stuff like that. But I knew that once I had the opportunity to actually be able to do what I can do.
Oh no.
That's a big oh no. That was the deep question. That was an epic episode. I'm gonna